Hey everybody, how's it going? Give me a shout in the chat if you can, and let me know if everything's working all right as far as audio and whatnot. Sometimes I wonder why I still ask that, but then I remember my early days and really messing things up. Cowboy Brewer, how's it going, man? Hey, Cowboy, did you drop a question, a brewing question in the comments for this live stream? Well, if you did, I will be doing a Q&A live stream next week. So I'll add that to the list there. If that was you, I believe that was you. I can't pull it up on my phone real quick. That'll go into some of the stuff that I'm talking about today. Yeah, I'll definitely get to those questions, but I'm gonna do. So really, the purpose of this one is, and yeah, we might get into some brewing stuff. We'll kind of see how it goes, but this one is going to be a little bit more career focused than some of the other stuff. So this is like an unscheduled, atypical. I don't even know if this thing is going to get uploaded as a podcast, ladies and gentlemen. Okay, I can't make any promises. I'm not sure how I'm going to feel about posting this. Not based on what I'm going to talk about or anything like that. But this is the first time that I'm really, I'm going without I'm going without a net. You know what I mean? When you're live streaming for 2.25 hours talking about beer, that's fine. I've been making beer for, borderline 20 years. You can make that work, right? You can get your way through that. I don't think this is going to be a 2-hour stream, a 2-hour podcast. We'll kind of see how it goes. I wanted to open this up and kind of talk about things on the career side, because I get so many questions kind of in that vein, and also it's a little bit of it's what was there's a book like 10 years ago. Is it Blue Water? Was it, or Blue Ocean? Wasn't it something like that? There's room in this space. There's a lot of homebrewing content on YouTube, and there is pro brewing content, some pro brewing content on YouTube, but not a bunch. There's a fair amount of pro brewing stuff on the podcast side. Welcome to all of our podcast listeners. If I do end up uploading this, but yeah, there's not a lot of people talking about explicitly the career side of things, and this is advice. This is just me passing on stuff that I've picked up over the years, and conclusions maybe I wish I came to sooner in the industry, and stuff like that. And I'm really using it as a brainstorming exercise. Talk season is coming up. For if you want to give talks in the 2025 calendar year, you have to submit them starting around September. And I have some stuff going on the beer side, on the technical side, that I'm thinking about working up talks for. But this is another area that I think I can put some things together for. So I'm using this for a little bit as a little bit of a brainstorming session for me. That this whole thing is going to be, you can pull a transcript of it, and a lot of times I find when I'm interacting with people in the chat, that when I go back and edit the videos down, I end up realizing I have ideas and thoughts that I didn't know that I had, because it's a little bit like thinking out loud, right? So that's kind of what I'm doing with this one. So if you're looking for really hardcore beer stuff, hopefully you stick around and you get something out of it, because even though I'm going to be talking about kind of what's been going on with me lately, with the channel a little bit, and career stuff within the brewing industry. I think it's going to apply to anybody's workplace, right? So, anyways, that's going to be the deal. We've got Cowboy Brewer in the chat. We've got Jorge Castro in the chat. Jorge, I don't remember if I've seen you in there before. If you've been in there before, my apologies. If this is your first time, welcome. Also, big tip of the hat to Brookside Brewing, new channel member. I'm not doing the typical live read today for Blickman. They are over my shoulder though. Check them out; they're good people. Hold on, I think I might mute a cough. We'll see if that worked. But yeah, so yeah, check out Blickman. They're good folks. They got good stuff. But let's start getting down to it. Like I said, next week will be a live stream Q&A, and you'll be seeing me posting things on Instagram and whatnot for that. Feel free to get yourself a dummy Instagram account if you do not have one, because I do have people that have just they don't have an Instagram account and they get an account just to get updates. That's good too. Make sure you're usually punching in subscribe and ring the bell, all that stuff, so you get my stuff. Jorge, usually catch the stream after the fact. Been watching your channel for years. Pro brewer from Puerto Rico. Well, welcome, man. That's it's always beautiful to see the scope of this platform of YouTube. It's a crazy thing the way it can connect people. And Jorge, again, this is not going to be a typical show, but being your first live stream, hopefully you can pull some goodness out of it, and we'll see. I might do some beer stuff too, but let me just get started. So for me, things have been interesting the last few months. I've been doing the YouTube thing since May of 2022. And so I'm not a full 2 years in. The platform is growing. I think the content is relatively unique to the platform because there aren't really people creating the volume of content that I create with the in-brewery stuff and the ability to ask questions, get direct answers. And this is a side hustle for me. And so I've begun to look to expand my base of not subscribers for the platform, but for sponsorships for the platform, because I believe that there is value to what I'm doing here. Video is pretty evergreen. It's out there. A video is the best way to be marketing. And there's still a lot of people spending money on print ads. And so I've been talking to some different companies and I felt like I had some good conversations. And so in order to kind of ramp that up, I started to create YouTube shorts as well, and post those across platforms. So on Instagram, Facebook, so Meta, LinkedIn, and YouTube, obviously. And I was burning the candle at both ends. It was too much. The whole time I was telling myself it was fine. I was pacing out across platforms to have almost 1,500 posts in a year, and that's kind of crazy for something that is a side hustle for me. But I was really trying to prove to myself and prove to some potential sponsors, the value that the channel has. Now, I do think that the channel has that value, but it was getting to the point to where it was really eating me up. All right. And we'll come back to that. Last week, I went on vacation with some buddies of mine from college, and to call them buddies is probably not the right terminology. I found that in my life, for some reason, I have been gifted amazing people, and sometimes you hear things like, people at work are like, like, oh, I love you, or, I love them, they're the best, different things like that. And that's nice, and that's fine. But these are very high quality men. All right. And what I mean by that is um they are willing to listen to you. They have your best intention at heart. They'll call you out when you're wrong. They'll support you when you're down. And I've had these guys for 25 years, and we went to Sarasota, Florida, and for years we've kind of done a thing with a few of my buddies from Maryland. We would go out to the Jersey Shore. One of my buddies' wives had a house on the shore there, and we would go out and watch the first weekend of the March Madness basketball tournament. We play some cards, watch some games. It was kind of too cold outside to do anything that time of year in Jersey. And this year we decided to expand it, and we went to Florida for it, and we tried to get a wider range of guys there. And we had like 8 guys total. We haven't all been together in many, many, many years. And it was just a really special experience. And, it was hanging out, beach time. Maybe your boy had a couple pina coladas. The gluten-free options for food down there, it was it was ultra spring breaky in the place that we were, and it was spring break. It's like everything was fried, a bunch of stuff that I can't eat. So I did live off, I did sustain off of the sugar inside pina coladas, but don't worry, real fruit. And anyways, just had a great time. And I was talking to the guys about this stress in my life, and I told them, I said, I'm finally at Sonder. I feel like that's a place I can work for a really long time. Okay. I think they're pretty good people. I'm still relatively new there. Like, my experience has been very positive. I think they're very pro their people. I think we communicate pretty well. And, unless there's a performance review coming up for me that is going to go sideways, I think things are pretty good. Right. So I have essentially a dream job for me. I want to be in the industry. I want to be making beer professionally, and I am. And I also get the benefit of having a team of people to work with and help facilitate their growth, which is very exciting for me, something I love dearly. And I can be miserable. I can be very stressed, very anxious, not present, right? There's an app on my phone on Purple Rain here, baby. There's an app for the YouTube studio, and you can track followers and analytics and everything like that. And I was just checking it constantly. Like, it was just one of those things. And if you're not one of those people that has one of those just like ticks to go to your phone, right, and check, that's that thing that I would just check repeatedly, because it was some metric that I could have that would know whether or not what I was doing on YouTube was successful, right? So after talking to the guys, and just having a chance to talk things out, I don't want to sound like, I do have it made. I have a phenomenal wife. I have phenomenal children. I have phenomenal extended family, and I have amazing friends, and I have a dream job. What am I stressed about? And I realized that I was creating that, right? So I needed to start making some changes. And so the first change I made was I deleted the YouTube Studio app. So I can't tell you, I can't check in a million times a day to see how many followers there are to the channel. So that was good. And And I just decided that I was going to keep doing what I'm doing. So this is not like a podcast where I'm like, oh, well, I'm stopped doing videos. There's still going to be a video every day. And there's still going to be a video every day, all the regular content. And yes, I am always thinking about new ways that I can do things and stuff like that, because this is a passion project for me as well. But I've made the decision that it's not going to be something that is a stress driver for me. Because it's not fair to my family. It's not fair to me. It's not good for my health and everything like that. So, yeah, I mean, that's kind of where we are. Cowboy Brewer in the chat. I was doing that with Untapped until the wife told me to stop. It was wrecking my confidence, and I was using that as the gauge of whether or not I was successful at making beer. Okay, so beautiful, Cowboy. I'm so glad you're in here, and so glad you said that. Career tip number 1: do not use Untapped. And what I mean, do not use, I mean, I do believe your brewery needs to moderate the content on there, but do not cruise your own scores. It's a no-win. It's a no-win situation. I remember I did a coconut beer back in the day, and this is one of my favorite reviews on Untapped. I had the coconut beer, and somebody said, I hate coconut, a quarter of a cap or star, or whatever the hell it is. And I was like, well, then why did I just check it in, right? Because how that works is if you're in the first 10 reviews for that, you can tank the score on a beer. And then when people see the score for a beer, it can down the line, impact people's impression of it. So just from a health standpoint, stay off of Untapped. I think you're absolutely right. Your wife was absolutely correct, Cowboy. That energy is much better spent on figuring out how to get better as a brewer, how to communicate with your teammates better, and to have a better service experience inside the brewery. 100%. Shelve the Untapped, the LTapped, the Untapped. Jorge says, I'm an owner and operator, and I've been struggling a lot lately, just with the idea of keeping up with work. I'm turning 50 soon, and it's taking a toll on my body and mind. Jorge, dude, I completely hear you. I'm going to be turning 47 this year. And I've had some, different years, different injuries throughout the years due to sports. I've had like a patellar knee surgery and a knee cleanup. I've had Achilles surgery. I had to have my Achilles detached, reshape my heel bone, then reattach the Achilles. It was ugly. And I haven't bounced back from that stuff. And our work is physical, man. And so honestly, this is we are going to touch on some of this stuff today, but for me, I'm very much focused on physical health, as far as daily stretching, some resistance training, a little bit of cardio. Sometimes your cardio can be work, and sometimes the resistance training can be work. But also we got to stretch, man. These bodies of ours tighten up over the years, and we have to stretch to be able to keep doing it. So yeah, it's an important note on that side. And there's such a link between how your body feels and how your mind feels, right? And it can very much help with some of that burnout, for sure. So again, I'm thankful for my guys. It was really great to be able to just have that time to talk things out with them. And it motivated me to jump on this topic. So one of the things that I want to stress from the career building side of things. Let's talk about, like, especially if you're already in the industry or you're trying to get in. I'm a little allergic to the phrase networking and building your network, but there really is something to it, and I think there's a dividing line between just going out and drinking and networking. One of the difficult things about our industry is that all networking events are alcohol events, and it can make it tough. Okay. So one of my favorite networking stories, I was a new brewer, and I was at the Michigan Brewers Guild conference, which Michigan Brewers Guild does a hell of a job with their professional conferences. They're comfortable. It's a good time. They're well laid out. They know what they're doing. That guild up there has been going for a long time. And one night, so we had like all the seminars, went out for dinner and came back, and they had like a social event. People are drinking, and I'm getting tired, and it's probably like 11 o'clock at night. But I started talking to some guys from this much larger brewery that will go unnamed, and they were like higher up the chain there, and I'm like, all right, well, this is what I'm networking now, right? This is what it is. I'm meeting people at bigger places that have more connections than me. We hung out for 3 hours, telling funny stories, talking beer, and I'm like, I'm crushing it, right? I'm meeting people. Next morning, I go downstairs. The name will be changed, just so you know. I go downstairs to breakfast, and I'm in line at the buffet, and the guy in front of me is one of the guys I was hanging out with the night before. And I'm like, oh, hey, man, how's it going? And he goes, good, I'm Rob, and sticks his hand out. He had no recollection of the fact that we, hung out for 3-4 hours the night before. And that kind of burst the bubble for me on what is and isn't networking. I think one of the big things when it comes to networking, I have made some very specific choices with how I use social media or your online presence, and it might sound a little over the top to call it an online presence, but if you have a social media profile that is visible and you list that you work at a brewery, you're putting that out there, right? And you're representing yourself and in some way the brand that you work for on the internet. You don't have to take things in the direction that I did. You don't have to have like an Instagram that is like promoting educational beer content, right? But you should make sure, or at least keep in mind, that your online presence is public facing. Okay. Me personally, what that means for me is I personally keep politics out of my social media, and I keep politics off of the stuff that I do on this show. There's a lot of reasons for that. One primary reason is I think we deserve an escape from it on some level. The volume of information that we are pelted with today, which is all intrinsically negative, right? Because there's negativity is what gets eyeballs. So I choose to be positive and information forward super majority of the time. Sometimes I do something silly, right? But when it comes to networking, I do think that your primary step of networking is having a social media presence, if you choose to use social media, that will not prevent you from getting a job. I don't think it's good to be online flaming other breweries. That's just me. I remember some years ago, I had a little back and forth with a fellow brewer because they posted something on Facebook that was kind of nasty toward another brewery about the quality of their beer. My point is that it doesn't matter if it's true or not. If you're a customer, if you're a consumer, feel free to put whatever opinion you have about the beer that you're drinking online. That's your right. If you are in the industry, I would hope that we would want to be lifting each other up, right? We can't forget that community portion of what we do. And so, I sent him a message. I'm like, hey man, I think that's out of line. I said, we're all in the industry. You know, let's just keep that stuff to you know, keep it down. You know what I mean? Because the reality is you never know. All right. You never know who is going to be reading your resume, right? You never know if the brewer at the place that you're making fun of online, talking about how terrible their beer is, at some point works their way into management at another brewery. You apply there, and then they see that name. I wouldn't call you back, personally. So I don't know. Tighten up on social media, or at least be aware that it's forward facing, man. People are going to see it. When people apply for jobs with me, one of the first things I do is I try to find their profiles online. You want to find out about the people you're hiring, right? That's one way to do it. That's one way to do it. So just be aware of it. To extend that notion out with social media and networking, do plug yourself into local groups. I know we have here in the Cincinnati area, we have a Rubber Boots. There's Pink Boots, plenty of places. A lot of states have guilds, or even sometimes larger cities have, little get-togethers and whatnot. And sometimes you can have something informal if you're in a smaller area. Just opening up and trying to get together with some local brewers. I think that's really, really important. I do think it pays off long term to be the person that is hardworking and humble. Nobody wants to hear about how great your beer is, even if you think it, right? Tell people why you are excited about a beer rather than how great it is. Say, because give yourself opportunities for people to be happy for you. Okay. I don't know. I just think that stuff comes off better that way. Right. But do hit those things up and be genuine when you do it. And again, not that it should be said, but we already talked about the alcohol issue with networking. Watch yourself. Like when you're out, have a couple beers, make sure you're incredibly legal to drive home. And I was going to say, or Uber, but I don't think you should drink to the point to where you have to Uber if you're networking. If you're going out and having beers, that's one thing. But if you're going out to meet people, drink slower. Let a round pass you. You know what I mean? Just do it. First of all, it's not bad for you, right? It's not bad for you. So, learn how to skip around. And again, these are lessons I've had to learn. All right. So this is not me being high and mighty with you, right? This is about trying to lift everybody. All right. This is about trying to lift everybody. Greme in the chat, pardon if I didn't pronounce that correctly. There are only two ways to rise above. You can either strive to be as good as you can, or you can try to drag others down to your level. We all make a choice on how we present ourselves. I 100% agree, man. I 100% agree. There's an easier way through life, right? The easier way through life is being grateful, and good to people. Great, man. Good to see you in the chat. But grow your network. I don't know how all of you feel about LinkedIn. First of all, it's a platform. So from an analytical standpoint, because I've done the research, it is easier and cheaper to get reach on LinkedIn than it is other places. Now, obviously, I'm using these platforms to magnify the content that I'm making. But you do want people to, it's not a bad thing to have a profile. Okay. So if you're using Instagram, take pictures, videos, whatever. You don't have to try to blow yourself up, but take a picture of something you're excited about. And then the caption, say why. You don't have to do it all the time, right? But you want some sort of online footprint if you're gonna be online at all, that shows why you are passionate about what you do, right? Because that draws people to you rather than pushes people away. Things like this seem small, but they're very, very big. I'm going to be honest. There's some people on that I've started to follow on Instagram, and I'm thinking, oh, they might be a good guest for a pro brewer interview. And then you're following them for a couple of weeks, and you're like, dude, I would never. Like, that is absolutely not the brewer I want to be talking to. Like, all the talking about how amazing they are, their journey is, like how I don't know. That kind of stuff rubs me the wrong way. That kind of stuff rubs me the wrong way. So I do think the way that you present yourself out there is very, very important. If you are going to revive the old LinkedIn page or start one, do the same thing. Be descriptive about what you do. People look at it. You wouldn't believe the volume of people that will look at stuff. I've grown this channel internationally, I think, in large part because of the work that I've been doing on LinkedIn. So it might seem like an old person's platform, but shocker, a lot of times old people are hiring. All right. So yeah. Just some thoughts on the networking side. Yeah. So yes, you want to have a professional, outward-looking face in the industry. When you go to festivals, don't be the guy that's the drunkest. All right. The party guy that everybody wants to hang out with is not necessarily the guy people want to employ. Okay. We actually have to create stability for ourselves in this industry. When I was teaching, I was tenured, and quite frankly, I would have had to break the law in order to lose my job. That's not brewing. Okay. You can just get fired. Ask me how I know. So yeah. Let's talk a little bit about leadership. And not everybody is in a leadership position. And I know kind of what we're talking about today is career development in the industry. But I think you would serve yourself well even if you are the person that is keg washing, scrubbing floors, and hauling grain. It's good to look at your time at work through this lens, okay? Because what I'm going to talk about is I'm very much into leadership. I listen to a fair amount of books on leadership development. Like, for instance, Simon Sinek. I'm very familiar with his stuff. I'm very familiar with Adam Grant, Adam Grant, Simon Sinek are very much in the same range. I've done the James Clear stuff, the Atomic Habits stuff. So some different books, right? And I'm very much interested in that side. And even the thing that's interesting to me is it seems like all of these people are like they're beating around the bush. Okay. Ultimately, what I think they're trying to say, without using certain language that might push some people away, is they're talking about being a woman or man of virtue. Okay. A virtuous person is a good leader. And first of all, it's not a word that we hear a lot today. And I'm not preaching or anything like that. But I think sometimes we end up getting into this watered down situation where people talk about being nice. And I can tell you, as somebody that is in the process of raising 6 kids, the answer is not always be nice, right? Because sometimes the truth isn't nice, right? But I would actually encourage you to actually try to cultivate yourself as a person of virtue. And this is what leads into this concept, and you've heard it before, of servant leadership, right? It doesn't matter whether you're actually in a position of leadership or you are a team member or whatnot. I think that you can take on these qualities, and it's an excellent way to provide the opportunity for growth in this industry or any industry. Okay. One of the things that I think is most powerful. So, people say, okay, servant leadership. What does that mean? I think there's a few key components. Servant leaders watch and listen. And then there's obviously the serve portion, right? So let's get into watching and listening first. I remember when my wife and I have been together since 1997. We met in college, and she's away this weekend. She's with my folks in Michigan, and I'm back in Ohio, and I miss her. I miss them dearly. Sometimes you think like, oh well, you'll have some time yourself. It'll be quiet, dude. It's the worst. I miss them. I love them, and she's an amazing woman, right? But I wanted to love her the way I thought she wanted to be loved, right? So like growing up, you have this notion of, oh, well, my wife is going to like when I bring her flowers. My wife is going to like when I buy her jewelry. My wife is going to like a nice dinner, a getaway vacation. My wife doesn't want any of that, like at all. And I know there's some people that are listening right now that will be like, you are very lucky. But my wife is so beautiful. All she wants from me is she wants me to go to work, come home, and rejoice in our family. That's it, man. She's amazing, dude. And I insisted on trying to love her the way I thought I should be, like with gifts and whatnot. I was not listening or watching or noticing, right? The best anniversary we've had for her was the time where the upstairs bathroom needed the wax ring replaced on the toilet, and we did that, and she was thrilled. She's a tough chick, man. She's no joke. She's no joke. It's taken me a long time to learn how to love her, and I still am learning that, right? But in order to learn that, you actually have to look and listen, okay? When we talk about servant leadership, you have to have your eyes open and your ears open. People will tell you, if you listen long enough to someone, they will tell you exactly what they want. You just have to be listening, right? You need to be watching. You have to be mindful of the interaction that the two of you are having and the interaction that they're having with other coworkers, whether they be coworkers, management, or whatnot, okay? People will tell you everything about themselves if you just watch and listen. Now, that's where the leadership portion comes in. You can learn how to appropriately serve people on your team by doing those things, okay? You can learn how to appropriately serve people by doing those things. So, for instance, there are some people that love authentic, timely, specific compliments more than anything else. There's some people that financial reward is really the only way. Words don't mean anything to them, okay? But you have to learn what that is, right? And you have to be mindful. And in order to do that, you can't be self-focused. This is one of the oh goodness, I'm gonna forget who the person was, but I believe maybe it was Augustine that was, and this is from a religious standpoint. If you're not religious, that's fine. But they were saying that a lot of times, you know, outward negative things that we do are often rooted in the desire for something good, but turned in on itself. Okay. And I think one of the best things that we can do for ourselves is not be self-focused. Because when I was talking about earlier about how I have my dream job, I have a side hustle that I love. I have amazing kids, amazing friends, amazing family, and I'm still stressed out, right? Well, it's because I have this. I'm too self-focused, right? I'm too turned in on myself. Okay. So I need to be outward looking. If you're going to use the camera, the selfie analogy, don't be pointing the camera right at, don't be pointing the camera, this isn't selfie mode. Turn it around. Can't point the camera out. Look at what is outside of you. And Andy told me I'm killing it. That's very nice. Thank you. But you have to focus outward, right? If you're somebody that is very turned in and you're focused on all your problems, this, things that are happening to you, look up, look out, and find things to be grateful for. Okay. Anybody that's in this industry, I don't care how it pays. This is a passion industry, and that's why you're in it. If you're in it, be grateful. If it's no longer feeding you, we can have a separate conversation. Okay. We can have a separate conversation. But yeah, let me jump in the chat real quick. Jorge, a wise man once said, being a slob is hard labor. It's easy to be kind and grateful. Indeed. Gramay, I agree. I have never met a nice leader in any industry. I have met plenty of strong leaders that were respectful. Respect is key in any business. A leader makes everyone feel part of the team. Ham McVeigh, what's up, my man? I'm assuming you're a man with the name of Ham, but so I'm just going with that. Hey, and the all powerful Andy Phelps is in the chat. The man behind the scenes. Definitely propping my sorry ass up over the last 2 years. So, but let's keep rolling here. Okay. So you have to be outward focused. All right. One of the things that I have tried to do is I try to do those things. All right. So if you have a really hardworking person that wants to be noticed, and they feel like they help other people, help them, right? Model to them, right? And this is the kind of the next point that I want to look at. I think that you can model behavior and praise behavior into people, whether this be your coworkers, your managers. In some ways, you can, obviously from a management perspective, it's easier because there is a dynamic there, but you can praise people into behaviors. Okay. And when we praise, it's got to be authentic, timely, and specific. All right. And genuine. I mean, that's okay. So if I see a behavior that I love that somebody on my team is doing, before the day is over, they're going to come up. I'm going to go over it. They're going to get a fist bump. And I'm going to say, I love that you did this. That was sensational. Keep it up. And I walk away. Dude, people grow to that stuff, man. I have a light over my shoulder. My fancy lighting. Oh, wait. Is this, what side of my face is brighter? Not this side. This side of my face is brighter. The sunlight coming in through the window over here, dude. People grow to it. People lean to the light. You ever seen that plant that goes like this and reaches out to try to get some sunlight somewhere? Dude, people do that. Now, that's not everybody. All right. The people that respond positively to praise, right? Don't be a cornball about it. Don't say, oh, you're amazing, blah, blah, blah. Save the big generalized crap. Like the big rah stuff. Save that for somebody else. All right. You're the person that sees something specific in a timely amount of time, in a close proximity to when it happened, and then tell them how great that was and why, and then walk away, dude. That's a big deal. And so whether you are in a management position or not, this is a great way to lead, right? To have people see you as a leader. The next thing that I want to talk about is seeing more in other people than they see in themselves. Okay. Now, you can. I hate to say the right word isn't use, but I am going to use that word right now. So you can use this again to develop. All right, to develop behaviors in others. The problem is my problem with the idea of the word use here is one of my favorite quotes of all time is the only just way to treat another person is with love. Okay, there's two powerful words in that: justice and love. And we brushed on this a little bit earlier when we talked about truth, right? Justice and truth. You know, when I'm raising my kids, sometimes I love the hell out of them, but sometimes there's some justice, right? Sometimes there's some justice. If you don't show your kids that there are ramifications for certain behaviors, the real world is going to have some very harsh news for them. Okay. And it's a very difficult thing to do as a parent. And I failed at it myself, but we have to strive against it. It's the same thing in a leadership position. You know, the only just way to treat another human being is with love. And I think that word love has been taken and morphed over the years, almost into this concept of either romantic love or just complete acceptance, right? I don't think that's what that is. If I use my children as another example, if it is not loving to my child to allow them to, or to not help them smooth off some of their sharper corners, right? The innate things that they're potentially even born with that are not going to serve them well in the world, right? That's loving, even though that can be painful, right? So the only just way to treat another human being is with love. I absolutely love that. But going back to this idea of seeing more in other people than they see in themselves. It is a technique that you can use with people. Again, that caveat on that word use, but it's a technique that can be used with people it's an extremely strong coaching tool. It's an extremely strong coaching tool. Sometimes people are integrated enough, personally, mentally, everything like that, that they have a very good vision for themselves forward. It's healthy, it's attainable, it's challenging enough, right? That's great. That's awesome. That's not most of us, and I'm including myself in that group. I'm including myself in that group. Sometimes people need to see that you have a vision for them, and this might be more particularly through the leadership, the management aspect of this. But I think it's really great, and I think this idea dovetails with this praise notion of seeing people, recognizing what they do well, and things that help to make the team culture stronger, right? But I think it's a great way. So often people don't know, people don't have a path forward for themselves. They say, well, okay, well, I wanted to be a brewer. Now I'm a brewer. What's the next step? Well, just to stay employed at a brewery? No, that's not the next step. There's other things you need to be doing, and we're going to be getting into those a little bit later. But seeing more in people than they see in themselves. Sometimes people get stuck. And from a management standpoint, you actually need to be able to sit down with them. Some people can come to the table with bullet points for you. Hey, this is where I need to grow. Sometimes you need to help them with that list, right? So yeah, keep your eyes and ears open, and try to develop that capacity to not dream for someone, because that doesn't feel like quite the right word, but have a vision for someone, and then see what works. You know what I mean? Pitch ideas, bounce ideas off of people. People appreciate the fact even that you potentially see more, maybe that you've thought more about their career than they have, right? So it's a very positive thing. Another one, super easy, leading by example. Do the things that you expect other people to do. I'm not a fan of act like you own it. And that's no disrespect to anybody that uses that phrase. It just doesn't wash for me. I'll act like that you're employing me to do a job, and I'm going to act as if I'm a person of character. All right. That implies I'm going to be on time to the best of my ability. I'm going to work hard. I'm going to tell the truth, and I'm going to try to get better. It's a pretty good deal. I think acting like you own it. I don't think it's meant to be. I don't think it's meant to be a weird phrase, but that one can go in that one can go in weird directions. Another really key thing to do from a leadership position, and even if you are not, is to be asking for feedback. All right. And the question isn't, how am I doing? That's not the question. The questions are things like, what are some things about my performance that you appreciate or are good for the company, right? What are the areas that I can develop that will bring more value to the team? Those are really those are the main two things that people care about. I mean, on both sides of the aisle, on both the employee and the management side. But ask the real questions. Don't say, how's it going? If you're a manager, and I call them like table touches, right? So when I'm managing a group of people, I try to make sure that I get my table touches in. It's like a front of house term, like restaurant industry, right? A server is going to go up to a table, touch the table. Hey, how is everything? Is there anything that you need? Right? That's a table touch. I need to table touch with all of my people every day. Sometimes some people require more, right? Just see what it is. It doesn't take a lot of time, but it is a real thing. Ask real questions. I encourage you to, on Friday, be asking, what do you have going on this weekend? And on Monday, try to remember what you talked about and follow up about it. Hey, you said you're going to the Cyclones game. Nice, man. How was it? Right? Be genuine. Notice specific things about them, right? If you start stacking these things up, you're going to get to a situation where people will run through a wall for you. No joke. So stack up these behaviors. I touched on it a little bit before, and let's jump right into it. So let's say that you are a brewer. You've been brewing for 4 years. You have your job in the industry. Maybe you want to open your own place one day, but you're not really sure. So really where you are is you have a job. Okay. It's great to have a job. All right. But I think that there's a really big notion in our industry of, I think people treat this industry as a job when they should be treating it as a career. If you choose to be in this, right? Issues with pay aside that, you can hear people ranting about online, the happiest people on earth. Pay aside, if you're choosing to be in the industry, turn it into a career. A career is better than a job, I think. If you want it to be a job, that's fine. But if you actually want to grow it, and this is how you grow it. We talked a little bit about before about making connections with people, networking. A great way to do that, and maybe a maxim from Ben Franklin, is asking people for help. People will do it, and it's a great way to get meet other people. Hey, you're down grain, this, that, or the other thing. You need some help. I have this coming on an order next week. You got a bag for me? I can bring you a bag next week. Ask for favors. It's a very good thing. But kind of the next step is professional development is your responsibility. My responsibility as me as an individual. Okay. Once you get to the point to where you know how to do everything in the brewery that you work in, what's the plan? Like, are you going up? Like, where are you going from there? And this is where, we start touching on some of those things. Step up as a leader. Start actually trying to develop yourself personally as a person of virtue, right? As a person that because we're all going in the ground at some point, when people are getting together at your funeral, they talk about these concrete things, these foundational things, the things that you would want your friends, your children to be able to say about you, not just some wild story or whatever, right? But actually foundationally how you contributed to their lives, right? Start pushing yourself in that direction and start trying to cultivate that stuff. But also, take responsibility for your own professional development. There's information out there. There's podcasts. Craft Beer and Brewing is great. Brew Association has books coming out all the time. There's podcasts. Dig into it. Reach out to people at various suppliers. Get to know people in their labs on the technical side. Ask them direct questions. I found some of the coolest nerds by doing that. I've met some great people in this industry that every time I go to a conference, we just start nerding out on yeast, hops, or whatever, man. It's the best. And all you have to do is, I remember I had called for help with an issue that I was having in the brewery. And we ended up just riffing, talking about fermentation. And I was really going down a rabbit hole. And I was talking to this yeast guy. And I'm like, hey, listen, I'm going a little far afield on this, but I've always wondered this. He goes, no, man, I'm super into this. And you can hear it, right? Like you can meet other nerds, right? But you have to actually reach out to them. So try to make those connections with the technical people on staff at the various service providers, raw materials providers that you have. Those relationships are huge. So podcasts, books, people that are smarter than you. Get into another brewery for a brew day as many times as you can. And just don't turn it into the thing where it's a collab and you go in there and pound beers. Go in there with your eyes open. Every brewery has problems with their layout, workarounds that they've had to figure out, different ways to rig things, different problems to solve. Every time you're in another brewing space, you should be learning about that space and getting smarter yourself. Okay. So that professional development responsibility does not lie all with your brewery, okay? Because first of all, sending people to conferences can be expensive, one. Two, not everybody can go, and especially if you're in a situation where you're producing, a volume of beer and you've got a whole team, you can't just send the whole team all the time, right? But own it yourself and get better. The information is out there. Get hungry, man. Get hungry. Do you have a commute? Listen to something. It's out there. When I went to when I was doing research before I interviewed Mitch Steele, you go into your podcast app or into Google and do Mitch Steele podcasts. Dude, he's been on 1 million podcasts. Go listen to it. Right? Find new podcasts. Do new stuff. And you can do that on your commute. Most of us probably travel a half hour for work, 20 minutes to a half hour. If you do that 5 days a week times 50, hold on, I'm doing math. 20 minutes times 2 for 1 day times 5 times 50 weeks. That's, the numbers aren't making sense to me. It's a lot of time. Okay. You can learn a lot, dude. Almost everything I learned about this industry, I learned through listening to podcasts. Okay. So go get it, man. And you don't have to be crazy about it, but just spend half your time, half your commute one way and learn something. Okay. That is on you. Let's talk a little bit about something that I think is unhealthy in the industry, because we talked a lot about things. You want to be a servant leader, or you want to really serve the people around you, because I do think that is the most powerful way to interact in the workplace. There can be some negatives to that, which means that you have to work on yourself so you don't get walked over. You have to draw lines, and sometimes this brewery is not for you. Loyalty to the brewery that you work for is a massive, massive problem in our industry. It can be the gratitude for the fact that they hired you in, but if they are not paying you, they expect too much from you for what they're paying you, then you need to leave. You need to find another job first, or find another industry. But sometimes I really question these people that are so stuck where they're at. Oh, well, I'm getting paid $15 an hour and I work 60 hours a week and I'm on salary, and so I don't get overtime and everything's illegal and they only want to give me pizza parties. Then why are you there, man? You want me to speculate? You think being a brewer is cool and you like free beer? And you're passionate about it. Don't get me wrong. But you like that scene. You like the scene where you can work all day, wear your brewer stuff, walk out to the bar afterwards, and you're automatically the interesting guy at the party and the beer's free. It's not a bad gig, right? Maybe that makes that $15 an hour a little bit easier to swallow. But that's something that you need to figure out with you, because we all know those people. Let's be real. Loyalty to the brewery you work for. When you work for a brewery, if you are not an owner, it's not your brewery. And I'm not talking about your percentage of ownership. Okay. So, oh gosh, I don't know if I can tell that story because I don't want to call people out. Even like, oh, you're after this amount of time, we're going to make you this percentage, dude, there's, bro, that 1%, 5%, 10%, you're not making any choices anyways. And 90% of the time that stuff doesn't mean anything anyways. All right. You work for a brewery. That's great. It's not your brewery. Work like a person of character, right? Don't work like an owner, because you don't own it. But the danger is sometimes we want to pretend like we own it because it inflates our own ego, right? It feeds our own ego, our own sense of self-importance, because I've been there. All right. I'm speaking from experience, baby. But you don't own it. You're not on the paperwork. Your mortgage isn't on the line. You didn't raise that money. All those things like that. Okay. So when things start going sideways, you need to be ready to move and do something different. Okay. Do not be overly loyal to a brewery. Don't ever tell yourself either, if I leave, this place is screwed. They can never fire me. This place would be screwed. I've thought that, and it's humiliating. It's embarrassing. Looking back, And I hope this doesn't make me sound like a douchebag for saying it out loud. Hopefully you can just take it as the fact that I was a younger man and not well put together yet. You know, not that I am now, but definitely better put together than I was back then. You know, having that thought, oh, this place is going nowhere without me. Dude, that place has nothing to do with you, dude. That place has nothing to do with you. Right? Just believe me. One of my favorite quotes, the graveyard is full of irreplaceable people. Right? There's always somebody else that'll make some word, dude. You'll be all right. But yeah, don't allow loyalty to a brewery to minimize your opportunity or potentially your happiness. Okay. Let me jump back in the chat here real quick. Cowboy Brewer, if you're looking to start in the industry, is it better to pursue the brewing courses that are popping up at colleges or seek out an apprenticeship at a brewery and work the ladder? It depends. There are some places that will only hire people that are degreed. A lot of places it doesn't matter. If you're in a financial situation where you can afford to pay for that degree and it's not going to put you in a financial bind and you really want to do that, that's great. I would say that you need to get your foot in the door as soon as possible. I remember when I did my student teaching, and they, because I taught in my first portion of my career, and going in the first day, the best thing that the education program did where I went to school was, as a freshman, they would have you in classes immediately. It'll let you know in a hurry, dude. I remember I went to this spot with this other guy, and we all split up. I went to my room, he went to his room. We met in the parking lot at the end of the day, and he goes, "I'm changing majors." You need to find out if you need to change your major. All right, that's the upshot of getting your boots wet, right? So consider that. I have no problem with education. I have been for 12 or 13 years a professional educator. I'd never speak negatively of it, but it's not. Get your boots wet. Get in there. See what it is, right? There may be a point though where you'll start bumping your head on a ceiling without a degree. If you get to that point, go get it. But if you're getting your degree right now, that's great. There's nothing wrong with that either. There is value to that. There's places that definitely put a premium on it. Thanks for the question, Cowboy. Yeah, and Jorge says in the chat, one of my favorite things to ask my guys is, how are you? I go out of my way to show that I'm asking genuinely because I really do care and because I can tell that they really appreciate it. I mean, it's such a huge thing, Jorge. And the interesting thing is, again, it's actually like, okay, you could do all these things I'm talking about and really manipulate the hell out of people, right? You really could, because it would work. Or you could actually do it out of the spirit of love, right? Love for your fellow person, man, woman, all those things. But yeah, do those things genuinely. Definitely. Yeah, everybody can be replaced and quickly. Good to see you in the chat, Todd. Good to see you in the chat, man. So, and this is this last point that I'm going to riff on a little bit. And thank you so much for being patient. There's not as many folks in the chat because I do know, I did say that we're not talking specifically brewing stuff tonight, so I get that the audience might be smaller, but I'm really grateful for all of you that are in here, and hopefully me spitballing on this stuff has some value for you. And that's not me fishing. But so let's get into this thing that we've talked about a little bit, and we've kind of beaten around the bush with it a bit, is when we talk about developing character, because I've talked about being an employee or a manager or a leader that is a person of character. it, it there's a complex thing to discuss without inherently folding in whether it be ethics, philosophy, religion, different things like that. It's not really how do I want to say that? Yeah, there's a lot of elements to this. And so I think that you can apply what I'm going to talk about in a few different directions. You want to be a person that is developing their character. And what does that look like? Well, I'll tell you what it doesn't look like. It's not red pill bullshit. Okay? It's not, let me clarify that. It's not and now, okay, so clearly I'm aware of this sphere that I'm going to talk about. And I'm speaking broadly. But don't when I talk about the red pill bullshit, don't think that you're making progress in life because you're taking athletic greens, you're doing a cold plunge, you're doing jujitsu, and you know, you're maximizing your sleep and your intermittent fasting, and you're doing all those things, right? Listen, those things can be great. I don't have a problem with you doing any of those things. If you want to do those things and they are a beneficial practice to you, that's great. Can those things, some of those things potentially help to build discipline? Yeah. But when I said the red pill bullshit, basically like this some of that stuff can really fold over into something that I think is very surface and be very I'm just going to say exterior, so saying the same thing twice in two different ways, but not necessarily meaningful. Okay. I am going to encourage you to do difficult things. I just listened to I really enjoy listening to Andrew Huberman. He's a neuroscientist. I mean, he's all over everything if you do stuff online. So you've probably heard about him. What I love about him and some others in that space is they're actual scientists, and they talk about studies as they should be talked about. They talk about data as it should be talked about. They say things like the data suggests, which is what it does, right? But anyways, he was doing a podcast with Goggins, and if you don't know who David Goggins is, he's like an ultra marathon, ultra athlete guy, and he's like this really hard-assed dude. And I'm not getting into Goggins. We're not talking about that. But he was talking to Goggins about there's an area of the brain that grows when you do things that you don't want to do. Not when you do difficult things, but when you do things that you don't want to do. And so Huberman was saying, you know, I like working out to failure. I like doing really hard cardio. And he said, those things do not impact this portion of my brain. It's only if I were to do things that I don't want to do, that actually makes this area of the brain actually physically grow. In this area of the brain, I'm not smart enough to remember what it is. It's some mid-anterior cortex thing or whatever. But that's not why you come to the channel. It actually grows. Okay. And this portion of the brain is associated with the will and potentially even the will to live. Okay. So fascinating. Now, the flip side is if you never do things that you don't want to do, this area of the brain shrinks. All right. So it's actually tied to willpower. You can actually build willpower by willfully doing things that you don't want to do. I think it's interesting when scientific the pursuit of science leads to some fundamental truths. Okay. I think our culture is very much based on a very large component of our culture is built on comfort, um, of avoiding, of being distracted, right? I do think that is something that we personally really, really, really need to avoid. Um, I think it's important to do things you don't want to do. I think it's important to do things that are difficult. If I asked you to sit down and write down a list of ways you could be better, things that you don't like about yourself, things like that. And then we just skimmed off the top all the things that were just about like vanity, physical appearance, different things like that. And actually started looking at some things that are actually like character things. We know how we need to be better. We know how we need to be stronger. We know where we're weak. You got to push yourself. You have to push yourself. And I think we've kind of come full circle a little bit. I think that the one of the most powerful ways to do that is through sacrifice. Okay. Is sacrificing for the people in your immediate peer group, your family, your loved ones, your friends. Now, there's a line with sacrifice. There's a line between sacrifice and being used. Okay. But I do think that this is one of the primary things. You know, there's a it wasn't a quote. It was a talk I was listening to one time, and it's interesting as modern people, we have this notion of people in the past not knowing or not understanding things, right? Because we have these supercomputers in our hands, we can do all these things, and you know all the old timey things that people used to think and believe. But something that I spent a tremendous amount of time thinking about is this notion of, you know, like when people used to do sacrifices, like animal sacrifice, or sacrifice food, like, you know, burn food, right? And one time I heard it said that we can look at that as caveman stuff, or we can look at it as the discovery of the future. Okay. It's the notion that giving up something of value today for benefit in the future. Okay. Something that is a positive today, or a perceived good today, because there will be benefit in the future. When we talked about professional development, you know, I said you have to take that upon yourself, find those resources, grow as a brewer, right? You can say, well, it's just 20 minutes a day, but it's a small thing. It's a small amount of time that over the long haul will pay off. I think whether we're talking about our personal relationships, our work relationships, becoming a person that is accustomed to being uncomfortable, choosing to be uncomfortable, and choosing to sacrifice for others. I believe that is one of the primary ways to become a person of character. Okay. I think one of the most poisonous things about modern life is our access to distraction, and its ability to like the way we're bombarded with negativity. And yeah, I think removing yourself from that, doing difficult things, sacrificing genuinely for people. And so here's the other thing. And so when we talk about service and sacrifice, all right, here's the other thing. Like, I can't punish you with my service. Okay. I can't punish you with my service. No joke. One time I had an employer apologize to me, and this is how they apologized to me. I said, I'm sorry already about that. It's like, well, how can I not be blown away with your apology? Yeah. When you serve, it is done in goodwill, right? It is a gift with no expectation of return. And that's a very, very big thing. Okay. So when I serve somebody that I work for, work with, or, they work for me, I need to do it genuinely, right? I can't be racking up a list of things. I did this for you, this for you, this for you, this for you, and then you're going to do this to me. No, that's not how that works. That's not how that works. If that's your plan, don't do any of it, right? Don't do any of it. Don't do any of it. I think, to be honest, I'm surprised there's as many of you in here as there is. I appreciate it. This is clearly just a riff session for me. Like I said, I'm working on some concepts for some talks, and I find this really helpful to be able to have this outlet to talk. And because it's it's thinking, so I appreciate your patience with that. I do hope that maybe there was something in there for you. Maybe it was all like super basic, no kidding kind of stuff. But hopefully you're not ticked off with the last 82 minutes. And yeah. So anyhow, I don't know if this is going to go to podcast or not. I probably won't clip this up because I don't think it's conducive to that. But yeah, I appreciate you all tuning in. And just as I say I think I say it at the beginning of, or at the end of every stream, I'm genuinely grateful to see all of you in here from people all over the world. And yeah, let me know. Drop those comments and feedback. I'm always looking to be able to provide you with as much value as I can. So anyhow, it is Easter weekend. Hopefully everybody has a wonderful Easter. Be good to the people around you, and keep working to get better. If you have any questions off of this, shoot them in the comments or into my DMs on Instagram or Facebook or even LinkedIn. Follow me over there. Adam Makes Beer on Instagram and Adam Mills on LinkedIn and Facebook. So anyways, you guys, I hope you have a terrific weekend, and we will talk to you later. Bye.